The subject of the discussion will be, is the world funny? Mr. Marx?
No, I don't think it's terribly funny, you know. I don't think it's ever terribly funny. Sometimes there are isolated pieces of the world that is funny, but generally it's a pretty serious world, always has been. People struggling for a living and starving and all kinds of riots, and particularly a couple of weeks ago. No, I don't think the world is funny. It's like saying, is a man funny? Even a professional comedian can be funny perhaps 8 minutes out of about 24 hours. But a comedian is not. They're the dreariest people in the world. You should talk to my wife sometime, which is more than I do.
That invitation?
I would say that I'm kind of a alter ego. I think between what I have invented myself and what the writers have written for me over the years, I have said the things that no one else has dared to say, because the audience loves it. If you have a general, like I had General Bradley on the quiz show, he's a nice man, very nice man, and might even conceivably be a good general. But I kidded them all through the show, and the audience loves that because they don't get a chance to do that. To mayors or politicians or bank presidents, people like that. People enjoy that because nobody else does that. It doesn't have to even be funny. It has to be a lack of respect for somebody who is important. But I think most comedians go on the stage in order to please their audience. And I never did. I said what I wanted to say, and it was up to them if they liked it. If not, go to another theater. I did the same act I did anyplace else. But humor is humor, and if it's basic, they laugh at it.
Mr. Marx, do you think there's an aspect of escape in humor?
Oh, of course there is. Of course there is. I think if it wasn't for that, I think most everybody commits suicide. There must be things that you have to laugh at. And I know my brothers, when we were together, it was always when things were most disastrous that we laughed the most hysterically. Maybe it wasn't even true laughter. It may have been kind of insane laughter. But that's when we laughed the most. I must tell you about an incident. I was coming into Chicago on the train, and we were going to play the Palace Theater. Zeppa was in the act then. And about 50 miles out of Chicago, I got pains in my side. And when I got to the hotel, I had 3 doctors look at me. It was the appendix, and it had to come out immediately. So they took me to Michael Reese Hospital. And Zeppa went on, who was the straight man, he went on in my place. And I picked up the Chicago Tribune the next morning, reviewed by Percy Hammond. Said Groucho was never as funny as he was this afternoon at the Palace Theater. And I was scheduled to stay in that hospital for a week, and I was out in 3 days. It's an arduous job being a court jester. And as a matter of fact, I was one 2 years ago in London. Mr. and Mrs. Bruce, the American embassy, and I was there every week for dinner. It seems that I was funny the first week. So they invited me back every week. They had a big party every week. And I was the kind of the jester there. I mean, I wasn't George Jessel or anything, but I would say, once I had as my sparring partner or table mate, Mary Churchill. She told me she was very pretty, and she's very interesting, very bright. And she said, oh, my father would have loved you. You're so crazy. As a matter of fact, you know, when Hess landed in Scotland, Churchill was in the projection room at his home on Downing Street watching Duck Soup, the Marx Brothers picture. And they knocked on that iron door, whatever it is, and said, Hess has just landed in Scotland on a parachute. What shall we do? And Churchill says, you keep him there until the picture is over, that's all. But Mary told me, after dinner, you know, the women went over in one room, the men in another room. Then they all converged eventually. And I said, what cigars? Don't they have cigars? And the butler came in with a box of cigars, and they were each that long, kind Churchill smoked. So I took a cigar, and Mary took a cigar. And I lit her cigar, I lit mine, we slept there smoking. She says, you know, when I used to visit my daddy, she called him, we would take 2 cigars, and we would bet a pound who could retain the ash on the cigar the longest. And I always beat him, and this drove him crazy. Here's a guy is running the world at that time, and he's worrying about a 12-pound luck or something. During the Second World War, you mean the one with Hitler? I was playing camps and hospitals with a troupe. It was kind of a minor Bob Hope, except that I never got any publicity because I didn't want it. I wasn't doing it for that reason. I was sad about the Second World War when I would go through the hospitals and try to sing funny songs. And the boys are lying there without legs, without arms, a lot of them. And it's not very funny, and it was a very difficult job to do because you would have to steel yourself to this ordeal. I played in Washington to a whole audience of what is known as basket cases. No arms or legs. Very tough to be funny under those circumstances, and they were a wonderful audience. Let me tell you something. 4 weeks ago, when NASA says, I don't want to defeat it, I want to erase it, that's when I feel sensitive about jokes. Conceivably, we could have been erased. I think that'd be very bad for the world. Let's say it had been reversed, and NASA had decided he was going to wipe out the whole Roman hierarchy and Catholicism. Would you want jokes about Catholics on public television? I was in Montreal and a priest comes in and he says, "You're Groucho Marx." I says, "Yes." He says, "I want to shake your hands and I want to thank you for all the joy you put into the world." He says, "And I want to shake your hand. Thank you for all the joy you've taken out of it." And he said, "Do you mind if I use it next Sunday in my sermon?" I said, "Fine, I'd love it." I said, "But give me credit and pay 10% to the Mars office."